I'm Kirstin O'Connor, and this is Getting Better. An open conversation off the anchor desk and out of the studio. Whether it's about health, lifestyle, or an inside look at the journalism at News 6. My hope is we all walk away better than how we started. Our first talk, a crime recently highlighted in Hollywood. Romance schemes leaving victims broke and brokenhearted. But News 6 has been following this long before Netflix. Investigator Mike Holfeld is here with the warning signs and the surprising twist that turned into a love story. Well, hello. Welcome to Getting Better with Kirstin O'Connor. I'm morning anchor Kirstin O'Connor. It's nice to meet you if we haven't met between the hours of 4:30 a.m. and 7. I'm very excited for the guest that we have joining us today on Getting Better. He's one of my very closest friends here in the newsroom. A lot of people know him very well because he earned us Service to America awards. He is the creator of Make Ends Meet. He has helped get millions of dollars back for people in Central Florida over his long tenure here at News 6. And he sits just steps away from me in the newsroom. So I'm very lucky to have him here with us. Mike Holfeld joining me now. And Mike, hello, how you doing?
Hello.
And you're
good,
in
except
your...
long tenure makes me sound old.
Oh, you're not old. Not a day over, whatever age I
Right.
am. And you're up in our Make Ends Meet studio upstairs in the newsroom. So people don't always know that we have a pretty large building here. I know the first time I brought some of my family members into News 6, they said, this place is huge. I had no idea.
Yeah, second floor is expansive. Sales is usually here, but because of COVID, they're all working at home, and we commandeered this and created it and put that monitor behind us, and it's been the place for Make Ends Meet for the last 2 years.
It's just been a team building experience to be working in the building during the pandemic. Both you and I know that very well.
Yes.
So I brought you on today because I want to talk about something that I think every member of my family has brought to me in the last couple of weeks. Of course, everyone in the newsroom is talking about it. And that is this kind of obsession with romance schemes that has gotten back into a lot of people's streaming networks. Of course, the titles that people have been talking about, the Tinder Swindler and Inventing Anna, that are about real cases. But why I want you to come and talk to our viewers is because you've been doing this for years and it's nothing new. It's just something that is intoxicating to viewers.
You know, it's funny, it evolved since I've been doing this. It evolved from ads in the newspaper, and then, of course, with social media, it's evolved to text, and then people using photographs, like your photograph or mine, and hiding behind it. And so what we've had is victims coming forward, I think, not only to warn other people, but in the hopes of getting their money back. And that's going to be the theme of this, as you'll see, as we talk about it. It's all about money, not love, money. And all those lonely people out there fall for it because they're convinced, and unfortunately, it ain't true.
And I think what's so fascinating for people who are watching right now, who have been streaming a lot of these series, is the pandemic has led to more loneliness. And that is something that you have come across in your reporting.
Well, definitely. Remember, you're not going to go to the bars, you're not going to go to the restaurants because of COVID. So what do? You do the social media, and these dating apps are out there. I mean, my daughters use them. But we're also seeing an older core. We're seeing from 29 to 60 and beyond using this. And the photographs are becoming more and more elaborate, and so are the stories. They're very, very convincing. Many of the stories I've done, you see they fall for it because they're lonely. Widows, you'll see, are just alone, and they're hoping this person really cares about me. And the con games we'll see play out, Kirstin, on social media. I've seen it on Facebook. I've seen it where people just get texts out of the blue. But it's Facebook and all of those dating sites that are the landscape used by these, what should we call them, imposters, romance scammers, whatever you want to call them, trying to convince people they love. And it's not just women, it's men. They both are falling for it. And if you wonder why I don't have more and more of these stories on the air, is because a lot of people, frankly, are embarrassed. They don't want to admit they fell for it. yeah, I fell in love with someone that lives in Nigeria or Europe or the Soviet Union. You don't want to admit it, but it's happening.
Right. I think a lot of my friends who are on dating apps, they take a lot of time before they even admit that they're on the dating app. And it's nothing to be embarrassed about because that's how people date nowadays. But it's just one of those things that if you were to fall and, be a victim of a catfish, as it's called, that's a second level of embarrassment. It's like, okay, not only am I on a dating app or 5 different dating apps, but I also fell victim to somebody who isn't who they say they are. And I think that's maybe a fear of a lot of people who are on the dating apps to begin with, and then to find out through some of these series that, oh my gosh, it's leading to, people losing their entire life savings. That's something that they maybe have never even considered. And it's scary. And anytime you have kind of fear involved with love or romance, it obviously makes for a pretty intense plot. Now, I want to start from kind of the beginning. I know you've done so many stories on this, but one that's really fascinating to me is that playbook story that you did a few years ago now. So tell us a little bit about it before we roll it.
Well, we have a group, Catfish Social Media, that reaches out to us with people that fall victim to this. And these guys were pretty savvy. They actually got a young Nigerian man to admit how they do this. And there literally is a playbook. There's a script, line by line, of what they go by. They'll say to you, and they kind of reel you in. They'll start with light conversation, and all of a sudden, I love you. And so as you'll see in the story, one woman fell for it and lost her life savings. This is an ex-Marine, lost all of her money, had to sell furniture, her condo, and as I speak to you now, she's living in the back room of her brother-in-law's home because she's lost absolutely everything.
All right, let's go ahead and watch the full story.
When you see this and these scripted lines, do any of those lines sound familiar?
Oh, a ton of them. How was your weekend? How's your week going so far?
Diane Standish admits she's seen them all.
You had me at It's a Match.
Think of them as social media pickup lines, taken from this, a sort of romance playbook, written half a world away.
This is a playbook, exactly.
Standish says she never realized the man she loved was using the photo of a former ambassador.
What's your favorite brand of music?
And a string of those one-liners.
4 months into it. And then he asked me to marry him.
She says it was never about love. It was all about her money. $270,000.
They're screwing with your head and they're pushing you to do whatever it takes to give them money.
David McClellan, CEO of California-based Social Catfish, introduced News 6 to one of those alleged Nigerian Romeos.
Your Facebook, your Instagram, Walmart's debit card.
His name? Well, he says his name is Agbama Godfrey, a member of a team of 20-something men using hacked photos like these to get cash through a lie of love.
And just send them direct messages like, hello, I'm interested in you, I want to get to know you.
Social Catfish opened a line of communication with Godfrey, a.k.a. Luke, to expose the strategy.
When you send 1,000 messages, you get 100 replies.
Godfrey says they're looking for women who are widows, divorced, or depressed.
What he told us is he had been doing it for 4 months and he had just felt guilty.
He tells us Godfrey admits to taking thousands of dollars from women, hiding behind photos hacked from social media sites. Many of those relationships are built online from the playbook.
Everyone should see this, and especially never give anyone money that you have not met.
I mean, gosh, you think about that and everything that she went through, and actually just coming forward and talking to you about it had to have been really kind of weighing on her for a while before it aired on television.
Definitely. And that piece that we put on the air, that was the second time I'd spoken to her. She told me her story the first time, and I wanted a perspective of someone that had fallen victim to see if those lines seemed familiar. And as you saw from her reaction, yeah, I heard that one. I heard that one. And so it's not just that woman who's in her 60s. It's everybody watching right now can fall victim to this. If you're dating, if you're using these sites, these people are so sophisticated, they'll make it feel like they love you. You'll look at a photograph that seems so great. Oh, this person really likes me. And that's the thing. Think about it. Everybody's lonely, and if they get that attention, that someone cares about me or thinks I'm attractive. That's the first part of it. And then it explodes. And suddenly it's friends, it's I love you, oh, I need money to see you, or I've had a business problem or something like that. I mean, the excuses are endless. We could spend hours talking about that.
It makes you mad. I mean, really, I can't believe that exists, and that somebody would, you were able to talk to somebody who, I guess, used this playbook at one point and now feels guilty about it. But that just makes me mad. I can't believe it.
The intel we're developing, and remember we work with law enforcement too, is that they will have, I'm sitting at a table here, 4 or 5 guys sitting around here doing the same thing simultaneously. So yes, it is scripted, because remember, English is usually their second language. And so you'll notice in the text, the sentences are broken. It's fragmented English. It's a version of English, but certainly not something they taught us in school. But it's good enough to fool you. The survivors tell me they dismissed the red flags because they wanted to believe it. And they reach out to me hoping that with my work with law enforcement, because most of the people that watch me know I do that. We work with the Secret Service and other elements, FBI and local law enforcement here in this state. They hope I can get their money back. The problem is the money's already gone. And they're using Bitcoin. You and I were talking about this the other day. They're using Bitcoin now because that can move quickly. They're also asking you to send the money to Venmo accounts. That money's gone in seconds. Sometimes they'll use those green dot money cards, and the other cards you can get at a Walmart or a drugstore, because it's easy to access the money, take the money, and it's gone. And then all of a sudden that guy or that girl that loved you so much doesn't care about you anymore.
And that leads me to kind of the next emotion. Initially when you watch these stories, I'm just overwhelmed with anger. But what you've seen from some of these survivors is that they have really fallen deep into depression. One of the women that you spoke with, lost her entire life savings and then contemplated suicide. And when she talked to the guy who was supposed to be the love of her life, he didn't even care. She reached out to me to talk about a second investigation I was doing, and I had her on this year. Her life is in order now. She has a job. She's back on track. But when she said, I'm so depressed, I'm thinking about killing myself, he said, and I quote, "You have to do what you have to do." It's all about the money and how they can access every dime you have. And then they just leave you and go to the next victim. And as I said, they're sitting around a table playing people, using different social media outlets to target you, tell you they love you, and then walk away.
They just take my images and just pretend to be me.
In the world of online romance, the face of Alec Robinson is being used as a sort of lure by social media imposters 24 hours a day.
They'll take pictures of me with my nieces and nephews. They will say that, hey, these are my children. I'm a single dad looking for love.
Robinson tells News 6 he first discovered the fake profiles years ago.
I didn't really think a whole lot of it.
It started with one site.
One day, it's just like this influx.
And today, to use his words, total chaos.
It's Twitter, it's Facebook, it's every dating site, like dating sites I've never even heard of.
On TikTok alone, he documented dozens of fraudulent Alec profiles, each leaving a potential trail of jilted women in love with a photo and a lie.
They're usually targeting single, either divorced, never married, women between the ages of 45 to 60.
His is just one story in a trail of love, lies, and deceptions. According to socialcatfish.com, Americans lost a record $304 million to romance scammers in 2020 alone, up from $201 million in 2019.
The profile of this person is still being used.
We first introduced you to Rebecca D'Antonio 1 year ago this month.
The biggest kick in the gut you ever got in your life.
She fell for a photo of a different man. She knew him as Matthew Sean.
Had you fallen in love with him?
I fell in love with a version of him.
She met that version on OkCupid, a free dating site built on a personality test.
I know who he is, but I've never met him, and I won't bother him.
She's never contacted the man she knew as Matthew or told him she gave away her life savings to a man pretending to be him.
Survivors of something that I've been through, it has a beginning and it has an end. Whereas these people, when their photos are stolen, it's a perpetual nightmare for them. It doesn't stop.
Now, I know the big question a lot of people have when they watch these stories is how in the world did you believe that this person was using your money for whatever the reason that they picked in the playbook was? How did you fall for that? Why do you believe that? And I think that idea, that term, or, the feeling of loneliness is the obvious answer, but I can't help but wonder if it really does have a lot to do with the time that we're living in. I mean, we mentioned the pandemic kind of playing into it, but also the distance, the disconnect when it comes to the technology and how people are meeting. I wonder if that is another key factor.
It's playing into their game because remember, if you and I were dating, we're not going to meet in person. We may do text. We might not meet in person because of COVID. So they're using that to their advantage. Typically what they'll do is they'll say, I'm on an oil rig, I'm in the military, I'm overseas on a job, I'm across the country and I really can't see you or meet you. And that's a red flag. Whatever the excuse is, don't fall for it. You need to say, I need to hear your voice. I need to see your face. You got to make sure the photos that they're sending you aren't being stolen. And unfortunately, 99.5% of the time they are. If they're telling you they love you and they want money in a week or so, or even a couple of months, don't you think that's a little odd? And the problem is, Kirstin, what I've seen is the American people are just honest and trusting. And they don't want to believe that someone would lie to them and steal from them. And unfortunately, that's what happens.
Yeah, seeing the benefit of the doubt or seeing the glass half full. And I mean, yeah, we can all relate to that. Now, one of the elements of the Tinder Swindler series that people have caught onto and really I find to be the most compelling is that he used an event, something that happened to him over and over again with pictures that were bloody and an attack. And that's why it was urgent that the money be sent right away. The other element was that he was meeting with people in person, which is just outrageous. And that is part of why so many people fell for it. But in this next story that you're going to tell us, there was a couple here who have actually met in person. And it's just, it really is out of a movie. It's just an incredible story.
Right. When you and I were looking at this, it really sounds like a Hollywood script. You're talking about two 30-something adults, great looking. They look like something out of a magazine. But the woman was very savvy, and she received the photograph and a story from a guy who within a week went from friends to I love you. She knew something was up and she blocked him. Then all of a sudden, that photograph shows up, the real guy, saying that this person might be someone you might be interested in. They started dating. And folks, they're dating right now. And they're going public, not to tell the unique part of that story, but to warn everybody. Because when you see this guy, he's great looking. And every woman around the world has fallen for someone using his photograph. They're told he loves them, but he needs money. And it's just an incredible story that tells you this just doesn't happen in the United States, not in just Orlando, Florida, but around the world.
All of a sudden, it was really starting to become like really heavy. You know, I love you, I want to marry you.
She says it went from light conversation to romantic sweet talk in just about a week.
I immediately knew something was wrong.
Nicole Hayden tells News 6 her Instagram suitor used a stolen photograph and called himself Marcus, a Marine engineer who openly admitted, I'm not for everyone, but I'm okay with that.
I basically cut off the conversation.
What happened? These texts show Marcus went from romantic to gangster after Nicole blocked him on Instagram.
They found me on WhatsApp about a month later.
He was threatening to post a photoshopped nude photograph of Nicole unless she paid him $6,500.
And started threatening me and threatening, that they were going to find me and they were going to find my kids.
She never relented. But then,
a couple weeks later, Alex showed up as a suggested user.
The man in the very photographs used by the imposters popped up as a suggested user on Nicole's Instagram account.
When I started messaging with Alex and he said, can we video chat? I was like, okay, this guy's making sure that I'm actually not a catfisher.
My name is Alessandro Cinquini, And I'm a 27-year-old guy. I born in Italy and recently moved to Miami.
Alessandro Cinquini, a.k.a. Alex the Officer, is a longtime employee of Carnival Cruise Lines, and according to women from the U.S. to Peru, a face used by hundreds of social media dating imposters worldwide.
So Nicole was the first person that I was able to meet through, a catfishing story.
In a Hollywood-esque storyline, Alessandro and Nicole actually connected on Instagram and have been dating since January.
I don't know, there was like just this attraction, like you're just drawn to somebody.
The couple tells News 6 they're going public to warn women his photograph is just one being used in romance plots that have nothing to do with love.
The main goal is to make money out of them. We're talking about thousands of dollars.
You have to trust your gut and listen to those red flags and don't send anybody money because anybody can hide behind the screen.
I mean, I have nothing to say. I can't even react. When you look at those photos of the two of them and the video of them walking together,
Right.
it's unbelievable.
I know. And they're very intelligent. And that's what I love about this, because they know that there are so many women out there that are being victimized. And Nicole could have been victimized too, if you think about it. I mean, that photograph, the story, everything seemed incredible. She told me she got spooked on one thing, and I don't think I put that in the piece, and I should have. This guy wanted to come to her house for Thanksgiving, and she thought, wait a minute, something's not right. So she had the instincts, and she's hoping, hearing their story, that other people won't fall for it, because think about it. You love me by text in a week. It just doesn't work that way. Everybody knows that.
But I mean, good job by her to have that instinct, see the red flag, not fall for those gorgeous photos, and just decide I'm going to block him. And she also had some interactions after that it seemed he had turned completely. The personality had changed. So she did the right thing. But to her credit, to be able to find that real person and let him know, hey, people are being catfished with your photo.
Yeah, they about a week or so into the date, when they started meeting face to face, it had gone from, FaceTime to let's meet, and they hit it off. She said, I wasn't going to tell you, but somebody used your photograph and pretended they were you. They used a name and they used your photograph and tried to start dating and told me they love me. Well, it turns out his friends have told him about this, and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. In fact, he gets 50 or so every day. And one of the frustrating things, and you and I should talk about this, and maybe we'll do that in another show, is these sites are not shutting them down. Believe me, he's trying to do it. He's trying to shut them down so these women don't fall victim to this. In fact, he told me he was in Miami, a restaurant. A woman walked up to him and said, hey, I was just talking to you. And he had to say, no, I'm sorry, that wasn't me. Someone's impersonating me. And think about it. One good-looking guy in one part of the country, he's in Miami. This is happening all across the country every day. Men and women's photographs being used to fool people, to pretend they love them, and then steal them blind.
And I think one of the points from the earlier story that she made that I thought really just rang true is that for someone like him, in this particular story, this is, I quote, a perpetual nightmare. Because he will never be able to escape his photo being copied and put on a new site and copied again and being used. I mean, once it's happening to you, it's the way that you're kind of getting used to living like that.
Well, we're staying in touch. We're going to do several stories with him. He sent me an email last week. He got 2 new texts. I think this woman was in India. So now I've got India, I've got Peru, I've got England, I've got the United States. I mean, it's a global thing. And see, these guys don't care who you are, where you live. They only care about the money. And as I said, they're sitting in a closet or at a table, and they're all doing the same thing with that playbook that we introduced in the first story.
So as we finish out here and we let people kind of just digest all of what we've shown them from your work, your incredible work, I want to kind of give them a takeaway. I want us to all be able to leave with something that leaves you a little better than how we started. And I feel like there's several elements here, but one of them is just the process of sharing your story and how important that may be for the next survivor. What do you think?
I think so. It'll inspire anyone that might be embarrassed and don't want to come forward, or they're in something right now and remember those red flags. Are you meeting them face to face? Are you seeing them on FaceTime? Are you hearing their voice? If they're giving you a bunch of excuses, that's a red flag. If they're saying they love you, but they don't take the time to meet you or at least call you, don't fall for it. Protect yourself. Someone out there is going to care about you, but it's not a con man in Nigeria.
And that's how we're getting better. Mike Holfeld with us for this pilot episode. Thank you so much, Mike.
My pleasure.